Today, we are tackling a figure who I think might just be the patron saint of all of us who overthink things.
That's a pretty good way to put it.
We're talking about Søren Kierkegaard, a man walking around Copenhagen in the 1840s looking, perfectly normal on the outside.
But inside his head, a complete philosophical demolition was taking place.
Exactly. And what's wild, looking at our sources, the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, Wikipedia, is how much his problems feel like our problem.
Oh, absolutely. He's writing about anxiety, the paralysis of too many choices, the weirdness of mass media. It's uncanny.
He could be writing about social media, honestly. But to really get him, you have to know what he was fighting against.
Right. You have to understand the intellectual climate. In the 1840s, the big man on campus, philosophically speaking, was Hegel.
And Hegel's whole thing was the system.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, the system. This grand, beautiful, rational idea that everything, history, logic, God, it all fit together. It was all marching forward in a perfect, understandable process.
Like we'd figured it all out. It's all just a big equation.
Precisely. And Kierkegaard just stands up and says, hold on, that's great for explaining world history, but what about me?
What about the actual person who has to, live a life?
Yes. What about the existing, finite, often terrified human being? The system can't tell you who to marry or how to face your own death. Kierkegaard wasn't interested in building a system. He was interested in the drama of existence.
Speaking of drama, his actual life, it reads like a prestige TV show. There are broken engagements, family curses, public feuds.
It's all there. And to understand any of it, you have to start with his father, Michael Peterson Kierkegaard.
He was a wool merchant. Wealthy, but there was a darkness there.
A profound darkness. He was incredibly devout, but also deeply, deeply melancholic. And he cast this enormous shadow over Søren's whole life. As a young, starving shepherd boy on a heath, in a moment of total desperation, he stood on a hill and cursed God. And even though he later became incredibly rich, he never saw it as a blessing. He believed God was punishing him by making him outlive all of his children.
That is just an unbelievably heavy thing to grow up with.
It was an atmosphere of doom. 5 of his 7 children did die before him, so it almost came true. Søren and his brother were the only ones who survived.
So it's no surprise he grew up a bit intense.
He inherited the melancholy, for sure, but also his father's powerful imagination. As a kid, they called him the Fork.
The Fork?
Yeah, because his wit was so sharp, he could just skewer people with these satirical little remarks. It was a defense mechanism.
So you've got this brilliant, odd, melancholy young man, and then comes the event that basically lights the fuse for his entire career.
Regine Olsen.
Right. The great love affair.
The great love and the great tragedy. He proposes to her in 1840. He's 27, she's 18. They are madly in love.
But then he gets cold feet. Is that what happened?
It was so much more than cold feet. The moment she says yes, he's thrown into a panic. He looks at himself, at his family's melancholy, at what he called his spectral nature.
And he thinks he's not good enough for her, or that he'll hurt her.
Both. He was convinced he would destroy her, that his own inner turmoil and his complex relationship with God would just crush her spirit.
So to save her, he decides to become the bad guy.
Exactly. This is where the Fork comes out in this really twisted way. He doesn't just break up with her. He creates this whole psychological plot to make her hate him.
I remember reading this. He starts acting like a total scoundrel.
A complete cad. He's seen out drinking, laughing loudly at the theater. He wants her to think he was just playing with her affection so that she can move on without being heartbroken over him.
That's such a philosopher's way to break up with someone. So convoluted.
It's insane. And of course, it just devastated her. He eventually just had to end it, and he fled to Berlin. He never married, and when he died, he left his entire estate to her.
As if they had been married the whole time.
As if. And that single event, that heartbreak, it unleashes this torrent of writing. But he doesn't put his own name on most of it.
The pseudonyms. Right. Victor Eremita, Johannes de Silentio. I was wondering about that. Was he hiding?
Not really. It was a pretty small town. People knew it was him. It wasn't about anonymity. It was about creating a cast of characters.
So each name is a different personality.
Think of it as a theater of ideas. Each pseudonym represents a distinct worldview, a whole way of life. And they argue with each other across his books. It's his strategy of indirect communication.
Meaning he's not just lecturing you.
Exactly. He believed you can't just be told the truth about life. If I say be ethical, you just nod. It doesn't change you.
But if you see a character live it out or fail to live it out,
Then you have to engage. You have to ask yourself, what about me? Is this true for my life? He called it double reflection. You have to live the idea, not just understand it.
Okay, so let's look at these different worldviews. He calls them spheres of existence.
Right. Think of them less like linear stages and more like different floors in a house. You've got the aesthetic in the basement, the ethical on the main floor, and the religious upstairs.
And you don't just wander between them.
No, you have to leap. It requires a decisive choice.
Okay, let's start in the basement. The aesthetic sphere. This is the world of the character A in either R.
And his entire life is organized around one principle: avoid boredom at all costs.
That sounds incredibly modern.
Doesn't it? The aesthete is a spectator. He doesn't want to commit to a job or a relationship or an identity because commitment is limiting. It's boring.
So he just samples everything.
He calls it crop rotation.
Right.
You constantly change your interests, your friends, your lovers to keep things novel and exciting. As soon as something becomes predictable, you move on.
He talks about two kinds of seducers, right? There's Don Juan.
Who is pure, immediate desire. He just conquers and moves on. He's almost a force of nature.
But then there's the other one, the reflective seducer. He sounds much more sinister.
He is. Because for him, the pleasure isn't in the act itself. It's in the planning, the manipulation, the idea of the seduction. He lives in his own imagination.
The person he's seducing is just a prop in his mental movie.
Precisely.
Mm.
And the end result of this life is despair. If you're just a collection of interesting moments, you have no continuous self, you just fragment into nothing.
So how do you get out of the basement?
You have to choose. And that's the leap to the main floor, the ethical sphere, represented by Judge William.
And the judge is, well, he's the opposite of the aesthete. He's married, has a career. He seems kind of,
Boring.
yeah, I'm bored.
To the aesthete, he is. But the judge argues that real freedom isn't in having infinite options, it's in commitment. He says the key is to choose, to take responsibility for your life.
So choosing one person in marriage, for example, isn't a limitation. It's a creation of a self.
Exactly. Through that commitment, that history you build with another person, you become a somebody. You find freedom in that voluntary self-limitation.
It's so ironic that Kierkegaard, the man who ran from marriage, wrote this beautiful defense of it.
Deeply ironic. He knew exactly what he was missing. But for him, even this ethical life wasn't the final answer. It wasn't the top floor.
Because you can follow all the rules, be a good citizen, and still feel an emptiness. Which brings us to the religious sphere.
And this is where things get really intense. This is the world of fear and trembling.
With the story of Abraham and Isaac, God tells Abraham to sacrifice his own son.
Yes. And Kierkegaard says, forget the Sunday school version. Look at this from the ethical perspective. What is Abraham?
He's a murderer. Plain and simple, he's about to kill his child.
Ethically, he is a monster.
Yeah.
But religiously, he is the knight of faith. And this requires what Kierkegaard calls the teleological suspension of the ethical.
Whoa. Okay, break that down.
A telos is a higher purpose.
Yeah.
He's saying that Abraham has to suspend the universal ethical rule, don't kill, for a higher purpose, which is his personal relationship with God.
But that's terrifying. Anyone could just say, God told me to do it.
And that's the point. That's the dread, the angst. Abraham can't explain himself. He can't justify it to anyone. He is utterly alone.
You mentioned a difference between a night of infinite resignation and the night of faith.
A crucial difference. The night of infinite resignation says, I give up, Isaac. I'll do it. My heart is broken, but I submit to God's will. It's tragic, but we kind of get it.
But the night of faith?
Is stranger. The night of faith says, I will sacrifice Isaac. And I also believe, by virtue of the absurd, that I will get him back, right here in this life.
By virtue of the absurd?
Yes, it's not a rational calculation. It's a leap. It's believing two contradictory things at once. It's pure faith in the impossible.
That concept of the leap, it connects directly to his idea of anxiety, or angst.
It does. For him, anxiety isn't just being worried. It's the dizziness of freedom.
I love his metaphor for it, the man on the cliff.
It's perfect, isn't it? You're on a cliff edge. You're afraid of falling, of course.
Yeah.
But there's another deeper fear.
The fear that you could just jump.
That you have the freedom to throw yourself off. That terrifying awareness of your own possibility. That's anxiety. It's the dizziness of realizing your life is in your hands.
And we get trapped between what he calls necessity and possibility.
Exactly. Too much possibility, and you're the aesthete, lost in fantasy. Too much necessity. I have no choice, this is just my lot in life, and you suffocate. You're a fatalist. Sanity is the balance.
Okay, so we've been deep inside the mind. But his life took a very public, very painful turn.
It did. After all this internal exploration, he gets into a street fight. The Corsair Affair.
The Corsair was a satirical magazine.
A very nasty, very popular one, like a 19th century version of an online troll army. He made a comment about them, and they decided to absolutely destroy him.
And they didn't attack his ideas. They went personal.
They went for the jugular. They drew these vicious caricatures of him. They made fun of his uneven trouser legs, his slight hunchback. They turned him into a public joke.
In a small city like Copenhagen, that's inescapable.
It was torture. He became a recluse. Kids would follow him in the street and mock him. This brilliant mind was reduced to a caricature.
But that experience seems to have sharpened his critique of society, his ideas about the crowd.
It absolutely did. He came to the conclusion that the crowd is untruth, that truth only ever exists for the single individual.
Because in a crowd, you lose responsibility.
You hide. You let the group think for you. He talked about leveling, the tendency of the modern age to just drag everything down to a passionless average, and he blamed the press for creating what he called a phantom public.
A phantom.
He meant that the public isn't a real thing. It's an abstraction created by media that tells you what everyone is thinking, so you'll think it too. You just download the opinion of the day.
That is chillingly relevant.
It's the algorithm. It's the Twitter mob. He saw that the great danger wasn't tyranny, but that we'd all become so passionless and conformist that we'd stop being individuals at all.
And that leads to his final battle, his attack on Christendom.
Right. And he's very specific. He's not attacking Christianity. He's attacking Christendom.
What's the difference for him?
True Christianity, for Kierkegaard, is the radical, terrifying individual commitment of the knight of faith. Christendom is cultural religion.
It's being a Christian just because you were born in Denmark.
Yes. It's polite, it's comfortable, it supports the state. He said it was just playing Christianity and that it had nothing to do with the radical figure of Jesus. He thought the state church was the biggest enemy of real faith because it made it all so easy and thoughtless.
He was burning every bridge he had left.
Every single one, and the stress of it probably killed him. He collapsed in the street during the campaign and died a few weeks later, at only 42.
42. Mocked, alone, at war with the establishment. It sounds like a total failure of a life.
From the outside, maybe? But he would say he did exactly what he set out to do. He wanted to make life harder.
Harder? What?
Because the crowd, the system, the media, they all want to make life easy by giving you prepackaged answers. Kierkegaard's whole project was to take those answers away, so you'd be forced to find your own.
So wrapping this up, why does this 19th century Dane matter to us now, scrolling through our phones?
I think it boils down to his famous idea that subjectivity is truth.
Which can sound a bit like anything I feel is true.
Right, and we have to be careful. That's not what he meant. He wasn't saying objective facts don't matter. He meant that an objective fact on its own is dead.
Okay.
Knowing the chemical formula for water will never quench your thirst. You have to drink it. You can know every ethical theory in the book, but that doesn't make you a good person. Truth only becomes truth for you when you relate to it passionately, when you live it.
It's the difference between knowing the map and taking the journey.
Perfectly put. He's asking us all to stop being spectators of our own lives, to stop hiding in the crowd, and to take the terrifying, dizzying leap of being an individual.
A leap that defines who you actually are.
Exactly. In a world drowning in information but starving for meaning, his challenge is more urgent than ever.
And that leads us to our final thought for you, the listener. We've talked about the dizziness of freedom, the phantom public, the pressure to conform.
So here's the question to sit with.
Yeah.
In an age where it's so easy to have a phantom opinion, an opinion borrowed from your feed, are you living as a face in the crowd? Or have you found the truth that is true for you? The idea you're willing to live and die for?
That's the deep dive. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.